It seems every year you're gaining more and more weight. And the only time you can be yourself is when no one's looking. Wouldn't it be great if we could just go back to a time when we were still healthy? You tell yourself that you would walk every day if you only had a partner. Yet every day you walk alone. Until now. Welcome to Walk Talk Ben. Happy Easter, Venters! Today I visited with the family, enjoyed Easter, did a little bit of an Easter egg hunt with my granddaughter, had a grand old time. I hope you guys did as well. I was reading, I should say, this one post on the Good News Network about a TikToker based out in Pittsburgh named Tammy Conjure. Tammy was eating at a place called Eaton Park, located there in Pittsburgh, when she met a waitress that was serving her named Betty. Betty was 81 years old, and Tammy actually overheard her talking to another patron that because of her back pain, she was wondering if she was going to be able to make it through that work day. And when she heard the other customer ask Betty why she was still working and if she had to, Betty let her know that due to financial pressures and financial problems altogether, she did still have to work. Tammy, being a nosy TikToker, decided to try to go viral and ended up hitting record on her phone and basically pleaded to her TikTok followers to help Betty. And she even started by giving Betty a $40 tip that she claims was the last money that she had in her purse. Typical female wasting money needlessly. Anyway, apparently her wish came true and the video went viral. She ended up setting up a GoFundMe account for the 81-year-old, for Betty, you know. After a couple of days, she raised up $140,000. It was at that time Tammy went back to the Eaton Park and told Betty the good news. I'm imagining Betty's freaked out, right? Because all of a sudden she's got some money. She's like, hey, whatever you do, don't mention my last name or my address. Oh shit, you told them we live in Pittsburgh? You know, those type of things. She was excited. Anyway, not only did they hit $140,000, but apparently a week or so later, they ended up hitting their overall goal of $300,000. And because of that, Betty was actually able to retire. Now, every now and then when you're scrolling through YouTube, you usually see the same thing you do on the regular news, which is a bunch of bad stories and an occasional good story. On the Good News Network, you get nothing but good stories. So if you're one of those that's looking for a little pick-me-up, go to the Good News Network and check out their stories. They always make me feel better. They're usually quick. They get to the point, unlike me. Jesse, you babble. I know. If that story didn't make you feel better, just by hitting the thumbs up button, it'll make you feel better. So go ahead and do that. Do you guys remember that story a couple of years ago where this young couple met this, I guess he was like a homeless veteran, and they ended up raising like hundreds of thousands of dollars in GoFundMe money? And then it ended up being like a big scam. They were all in it together. Do you guys remember that? And the only reason they got caught is because they were greedy against one another. And they, like, the homeless guy ended up suing him because he didn't get the money, but it was like a scam. How silly is that? You actually succeed at your plot to scam people, and you end up telling on yourself because you guys can't freaking figure out how to scam people, where you both have a fair shake. Holy shit, how stupid. Unbelievable. Isn't it funny how greed foils everything, even when people are successful at their plan? It's crazy. There's got to be a moral to that story, Jesse. Yeah, it's called Leave Well Enough Alone. Quit trying to have your cake and eat it too. The reason I bring up the scam story is because even when you hear stories about this, you can't help but be skeptical. Did she do this to help the lady? Or did she literally just want to get TikTok famous? I don't know, maybe she was already popular on TikTok and she did it just to legitimately raise money. Here's the thing that's crazy. When you get to a point where you have that many viewers, that many followers, you really do gain power. Because think about this, every time she goes to a restaurant for the rest of her life and she sees some elderly person working there, all she has to do is flip a switch, put on some tears, put on a little violin music in the background, and before you know it, she's going to be able to retire people left and right. I wonder how many people are legitimately hurting, just like Betty, and they try to put their own post and it gets ignored. Isn't that? That's the story of my life. Holy shit. That's how life is. That's why I think it might be a simulation, though. It's just like a video game. Sometimes you get to that point in the video game where you just don't know the secret moves to get over to that next level. We all go through that, right? Now, once you learn those secret moves, you never forget them and you keep going. But sometimes life doesn't give you those secret moves in advance. You have to discover them, you know? And I notice that when I'm looking up videos of people, there are some people that everything they touch, they get 1 million views. Like literally every video is just incredible. Then there's other people that I view that sometimes they don't get the views, but I'm telling you, they've got some super talent, and a lot of times they have a pretty darn good video. So I find it shocking. It makes me feel like some people, no matter what they do, are going to naturally be kind of successful in life. Meanwhile, others, again, no matter what they do, sometimes are just going to be unsuccessful. When I'm there today celebrating Easter with the family, because it's my ex's family that I'm with, and I'm there because I want to see my daughter and granddaughter, obviously. But when I'm there, I'm sitting there and it's like a reunion with her family that I've been estranged from for 30 years. That's one of those things that are humbling and not so fun, but as a dad of an adult and as a grandfather, sometimes you got to eat that humble pie. I actually relish in it now. When they ask me questions, I try to talk their ear off to the point where they're like, okay, thank you, Jesse, and they move on. They move on. Has anyone else noticed that? That when you go to a get-together, whether you know the people or not, whether you get along with people or not, just communicate and talk with them like they're your best friends. And one of two things will either happen. Either they really will start to enjoy talking with you, right? Or they'll just move the hell on. Either way, it's fun to do. I would recommend you try it. Now, I've gotten to the point where I can speak with my ex's family and they actually communicate back with me and it's fun, but it did take a couple of decades. You know, it did take a couple of decades. You know, in my favorite movies, these comedy movies, they show somebody like raising money for a lady, and the lady is just like the nicest grandmotherly type lady, right? And it just pulls at your heartstrings, and you see the dollar signs go up as more and more people donate. This is in the movies. But what makes those movies so fun is that right when the camera goes off, all of a sudden the old lady that's nice is like, damn, I was wondering when you were going to turn that damn camera off, and all of a sudden you realize what a miserable person it is. And you're thinking, oh my God, no one would ever give that lady anything. But because it was on a TikTok video or a movie, it pulls at our heartstrings. Nobody ever asks the real question. Why is this 82-year-old, 81-year-old woman working at a restaurant into her 80s? It's because she probably screwed over her husband, had an affair, doesn't have any kids that think highly enough that they want to take in mom. But no one wants to ask those tough questions, do they? Just kidding. You got to give respect to elderly women. She's probably a grandma. And I don't know about you guys, but I come from the generation where many of us were closer to our grandparents than we were our parents. I was a grandma's boy. If you were a grandma's boy or a grandma's girl, let me know down in the comments. Nothing against the elderly women or the elderly men out there. As a matter of fact, any year now I'm gonna be a elderly man, so I'm hoping you guys will be respectful of me as well. Bill Desert Hills says, sometimes older folks need something to keep them going. An 80-year-old man that I knew sold his hardware store and was gone in only 6 months. Without purpose, he had no reason to stick around. So that's another thing I think of. This woman literally has to wake up and go wait tables every single day because her $910, I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, she makes $910 a month in Social Security payments. Because of that, she's forced to work, right? She's got to supplement her income. But what happens to elderly people once they end up fully retiring and just hanging out at home watching The Price is Right every day? They end up perishing. Her moving and being a waitress might be that little extra movement that she needs that signals to her brain, stay alive, Betty. Keep moving, Betty. What are you doing? Drink some water, Betty. Elderly people, when they don't have anything to do, they all of a sudden they forget to shower, they forget to eat, they'll go days at a time without drinking water. It's really weird. Super elderly people forget to drink water. It is bizarre. And you guys know it's true. I don't know any science behind it. God, don't come to this channel for the science. All I know is that when people retire, a lot of times you end up hearing that they perished really, really quickly. But either way, jokes aside, I think we can all agree that's a pretty positive story. And like I said, the reason that we don't have a last name for Betty is, let's be honest, she has $300,000 in her name. We don't want anybody hunting down Betty. She lives in Pittsburgh. I also wanted to tell you guys some bad news. I found this disease that they were talking about that apparently involves a flesh-eating disease of the vulva, and 3 UK cases have popped up. It's called necrotizing fasciitis. I think if you could have the worst disease ever, it would be like gangrene of the genitals. This sounds just as bad. Apparently, it's not necessarily a sexually transmitted infection, but it gets in these areas in your genitals. It's like this, what is it? It's a bacterial infection that destroys soft tissue. The vulva includes the external female genitalia, such as the labia. Oh my God, am I giving you guys a vulva tutorial here? Anyway, those soft folds of skin, if they end up getting any type of ingrown hair or any type of scratch or anything, the disease, this bacteria can get in there, and apparently it kills people pretty darn quickly. I don't even know why I mentioned that. It's not even an STD, but the point is, you can get vulva necrotizing fasciitis. Oh my God. I hope that when I'm 81, I'm not still working because I have to. I hope that if I'm 81 and working, it's simply because I want to. But there's a lot of people out there that can probably simulate being active and alive, so to speak, simply by taking a daily walk. What's really cool about walking is we do it a lot as kids when we're walking to and from different classes at the school, when we're walking to and from home to the school and back, right? And a lot of times when we're not walking, we're still bike riding and playing, right? Kids are good at playing and moving. As we get older, we stop doing that. So you actually consciously need to schedule time to take a walk. Now, if you ask people, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5, they're usually at work. They don't have time to do it. By the time work is done, they're too tired and exhausted. So what do we do, Jesse? Do we just call it quits? No, we be proactive. We make a plan. How about this? If we get in our car each day at 7:30 to start work at 8, why don't we get out the house at 7 and take a half-hour walk to our car before we go? You start doing that every single day, and before you know it, you're super healthy. Hey, how's it going? You guys didn't see anything there because I had the camera on me. But the person I just saw there looked like they were in pretty bad shape. Oh my goodness. Sometimes people, no matter how young they are, they can do various drugs and stuff, and it just ages them like crazy. I'm glad you guys didn't see her, but basically she just looked like a 80-year-old, 20-year-old right there that I walked by. Anyway, back to what I was saying, guys. If you take your daily walk, some of you are going to notice, just like I do, that many times you're the only person out here. And it really plays tricks with your mind. You start to tell yourself things like, well, if no one else is walking, why the hell am I wasting my time? I don't have extra time, Jesse, just to waste. But that's where you're wrong. Sometimes we need a little bit of time to unwind, come down to reality, get a little bit of sunlight on our skin, take a little bit of a time to just kind of chill out and relax. And I'm telling you, that half-hour walk before or immediately after work is just a great thing to add to your day. If you walk for a half hour with me every day, you're gonna burn about 150 calories. There's about 150 calories in a can of Coca-Cola. So if you're one of these people that's drinking Coke too much, slow down on your Coke, a cola, drink water to replace it, and take a half-hour walk with me, and let's see what happens over the next 60 to 90 days. If you don't lose as much weight as you'd like, we'll just totally eliminate Coca-Cola, and we'll start walking even more. But the key is, we'll do it together. I can do this, you can do this, we can do this. We're a walking team, so let's do this. Have a good night. I'll see you guys tomorrow.